and welcome to the Every Ancillary Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Berg, joined as always by Viv Hudson. Vivian, we have a really cool new program to share with everyone today.
I am pretty excited about this one because technology is just putting more and more stuff in the hands of your primary care physician. So, this particular solution that we've got is going to take something that it only seems like yesterday you could only get this kind of technology in a hospital, but now it's going to be in doctors' offices. So what do you think about that, Mike? You can unveil what it is.
So we're talking about MRI, and MRI has been confined to special facilities, hospitals, diagnostic testing centers. The big reason why they're confined to those areas is because the size requirements for MRI are pretty robust. The building requirements for MRI, when you put in an MRI, it requires lead shielded walls. It requires a huge space. Typically, this has to be done on a ground floor. And so it takes incredible amounts of electricity, helium costs. You need 3 rooms. You need a control room, a chiller room, etc. And it just does not make any sense for most providers to offer MRI. So they refer these patients out. The new MRI technology has brought the price parity down quite a bit. So where it used to be probably somewhere in the realm of 70 to 100 patients per month to break even on owning MRI equipment, now, because this equipment is much smaller, requires much less electricity, no helium, does not require any sort of special build out, it can fit in one room, etc. Now, this has brought the price parity down to more like 12 to 15 patients or so.
Wow.
What do you think of that?
That is pretty amazing. Like, I thought the C-arm was pretty cool, like having a X-ray type device that you can roll from room to room, and now we're talking MRIs. So this is pretty mind-blowing to me.
It is, yeah. So just to give you a little bit of a history of MRI, Viv, as I said, a traditional MRI will use 3 rooms. So you need a pretty large space. And you think about how heavy those MRIs are, how cumbersome they can be. Those are things that they have to retrofit buildings to be able to put an MRI into. It's a big production to bring an MRI. The newer technology, though, you can fit an MRI in a 14 by 18 foot room. You don't need any sort of lead shielding. It's all self-contained. And the newer MRIs don't use helium. Helium could be $3,000 to $6,000 a month in cost. And then electricity costs. This runs off a 208 amp versus a 480 amp, which is about 1/20th of the electricity cost. They say for these, it only uses about as much electricity as a commercial clothes dryer, maybe $300 a month for an active practice. So their variable costs are pretty small. So that's the big selling point.
Yeah, and I imagine that the reimbursements on this are pretty lucrative, because if you know that you've got to go get an MRI, it's usually a 4-figure price tag if you're going to pay out of pocket for something like that. So I imagine it's going to be something that would be quite lucrative for a practice. So what kind of practices could you see benefiting from this?
Well, it's going to be mostly physical medicine. Now, primary care practices are not a good fit. Primary care practices, while they may occasionally order MRIs, they're not going to be ordering at the same clip as somebody who's like a spine specialist or any sort of physical medicine type of practice where they need to get that type of imaging. Then the real low-hanging fruit are the personal injury and work comp doctors. For the reimbursements are different in different states, but as a rule of thumb, if they can do 1 patient a day, that should earn them about an extra $500,000 in profit per year. The practices, we just launched this week. So already we've had practices lined up from different affiliates who've reported back to me. One gentleman who I've been texting back and forth with says his practice is right now referring out about 100 cases per month, but they are looking to team up with another group, and collectively they think they can do 250 to 300 cases per month. You're
Whoa.
talking about you're talking about something that they're probably going to have to finance at maybe 14,000 a month. That's going to be their outgoing, but incoming, they're looking at $5+ million per year. That's realistic for this practice. So you want to talk about something that can add revenue. This adds huge revenue to the right practice. Most of these doctors are not looking at this opportunity because they feel like they're too big, they're too expensive, it's not for me. Viv, do you know that I bought a plasma screen TV in 2001, and I think I paid $3,800 for a little dinky 36-inch TV. I have the one that's on my wall now. It's twice the size, and I think I paid like $700 or $800, and it's way more slick. It's the same thing with these MRIs. These things
Yeah,
have got a lot more slick.
I was just talking about that with my in-laws this week about that they had a problem with their TV. It's like, well, I'll just throw it out and buy a new one. I can get a new one for a couple of $100. So MRIs
Exactly.
aren't quite that cheap. But it's interesting how technology is making a lot more of this stuff affordable and available, I think is the important thing, because there's a lot of things now that they can't actually detect on a x-ray, and they need to do an MRI to really get that differential diagnosis to know what is going on with that patient. So this is going to be a super great tool for these practices. So what I understand, there's several different models available, so can you talk about those, Mike?
Yeah, so there's 3 different models available, and this is based on the type of practice that they have. One of the models is strictly for extremities. Obviously, you have specialists who specialize in hand surgeons, foot podiatrists, foot surgeons. Those people are this device would suit their needs. For most practices, though, they're going to need a more robust system that checks where you can test for extremities, but in addition, spine, shoulders, hips, etc. There's also a third model, which if they take work comp or PI, they'll want to get the third model, which does the same type of imaging, but it also allows them to do weight bearing or supine imaging. And that helps them prove their case values for personal injury cases. And this is the type of imaging that they're looking for. These are all open MRIs too. So I actually have had an MRI done before, and it was a closed MRI. I'm not a claustrophobic person, but I could see how, even for me not being claustrophobic, it does get a little bit uncomfortable in there. These are all open. It's very comfortable for the patient. And so they'll be able to perform any type of imaging that they want using this equipment. And the other cool thing is that this is a MRI program. They realize that the providers who are buying this, for the most part, now you do have some diagnostic testing centers that are looking to upgrade or looking to add on, and this is a great fit for them. But the bread and butter here are the practices that are referring this out right now. And what the manufacturer does is they have a full turnkey program so they're not just dumping the machine and say, here, have at it, good luck. They're going to do everything that they need to get insurance accreditation, help them with the billing. It comes with warranty and everything else. They're going to be able to help them with radiology service and reads. They'll be able to do all the accreditation that's needed. They'll be there on site to train a technician and to train the physicians. They'll have a whole policies and procedures manual for them. Everything is compliant with HIPAA, MIPA, high tech, etc. They'll help them with the site planning. They'll even help them market this to potential patients and to other doctors. That's the other thing, Viv. They can take referrals from other doctors. So those doctors that they're buddies with, maybe the primary care doctors that they're getting the referrals from, they can say, hey, by the way, if you have any MRI cases, you don't have to send them to the diagnostic center. I can do MRI, open MRI right here in my practice. So there's a lot of opportunities to grow the practice as well.
Yeah, that's pretty remarkable, and it's excellent that they provide such a robust service that goes with it, because with anything new, doctors don't have the time to go and do the research to find out everything that's involved in putting the equipment in, as well as then understanding how to bill it and all the rest of it. So this is something that's really going to give them everything that they need, and all they've got to do is put the ink on the bottom line, and the company will work with them to get it all in place. So that's, you can't ask for more than that now, can you? And
Well,
also, yeah, and
Go ahead.
also I think the tax benefit also pretty beneficial for the physician as well, that is putting it into their practice. So all this kind of stuff is going to give them money back on their taxes
A
as well.
huge year one write-off, as you know, Viv, because we sell that section 179 as that's part of your sale when you're selling equipment. As there's the retail price, but then there's your actual price of what you're paying when you factor in your tax incentives. And this gives them a humongous year one write-off. So it's going to significantly lower their tax burden for 2020 if they participate. They do have, just to let you know, Viv, they do have, obviously, doctors can purchase it. They can finance it. They also have a rental model available. They do have some, I don't exactly know how they do it, but they have some private money that they can inject into these practices and purchase it on their behalf. And I don't know what the splits are, but they have some sort of pay-per-click model too for practices that can't or won't finance it. It is a pretty large purchase, so not every practice is going to qualify. But there's different options to get involved, even for doctors with less than perfect credit. The other great thing, Viv, is that this pays out humongous commissions. I have the person I was texting with here earlier, he's already got 2 practices lined up on the hook who are dying to get started. They're already submitting credit apps. He's looking off each one of these in the neighborhood of 50, 60,000 in commission off each device. Nice. This is some real commission, and this is paid upon installation. This isn't paid 2 years from now. He's probably going to see this money within the next 30 to 60 days, I would imagine. So it can be a real shot in the arm for the right practice. Viv, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I know you don't know a lot about this. How would you, let's just say you had a connection to a work comp doc. How would you get the conversation going?
I would start by asking how many MRIs they're currently sending out. That's where I would start, because from there, then you can start to do the calculations in your head, what that's going to look like. If they go, well, 20 to 40, then you can say, well, that's going to be an extra $500,000 to $1 million a year in additional revenue for the practice. Is that something that you could see a benefit with? So I think that that's a pretty good conversation starter. And the other nice thing, I think, is with the other things that we've got on the Every Ancillary platform, it's not just this that you're going to a practice with. You can talk to them about the PEMF program and also the accounts receivable. So we've got some really good stuff for those personal injury physicians to help them really turn around their practice. And this is, I'm really excited.
Absolutely. Well, Viv, if people want to get started, what's the next steps?
The next step is you go to everyancillary.com, make sure that you register if you haven't already, and find the MRI solution and add that to your bag, and you'll be all set. We'll get you connected with all the documents and connections that you need to get started selling this solution. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Viv.